SX workers at Reddit, what's the weirdest kink a customer has asked you to fulfill? I was paid $200 to kick knee a customer in the balls till he came. Only took about 4 times to make him come. Did it a few times. He even paid me $500 when I went out clubbing to do it in a corner of the club. Not super crazy, but I had a guy approach me through Reddit and ask just to be able to give me money with no strings attached. There was a couple month period during which he would gradually send me money in multiple $15 payments spread throughout the day. Sometimes we'd text too. Sometimes we wouldn't message for a week, but he'd still send me money and quietly wait until I felt like talking. He liked when I ignored him. And if we talked, it turned him on when I was mean. He ended up giving me about $1,500 without him ever asking for so much as a photo. Man. If anyone wants to do that with me. I was a cab driver for several years. Night shift. Ghetto. Loved that job. I had a regular escort who always requested me. Probably because I didn't ask her for anything whilst driving her to her next job. She'd go up into an apartment, house, or hotel room and have me wait. Sometimes a full hour. But rarely over 15 minutes. I never argued because waiting and a return trip keeps the meter running longer. One time she came down after maybe 10 minutes. She looked half amused and half terrified. She said that the guy had her put on a muumuu and an old lady wig. Then yelled at him while he took her and, edit for clarification, during, he jacked off. I'm weird. Freud would have something to say about that guy. No doubt. I think I might qualify as a one-time SX worker. One night, after riding the subway home from work, a guy followed me off the train and offered to buy the shoes off my feet. He stammered through some nonsense about being a sneaker collector and paid me $450 in cash for my old, sweaty canvas Vans. Totally worth the 2-block walk home in my socks. Not one myself. But I knew a reporter who had done a story on the infamous red light area of Mumbai. One of the stories that stuck with all of us is of this one guy who turned up at one specific date every month with a duffel bag. Now you'd think he'd bring kinky devices with him to use on the SX worker. But instead, he'd bring a full set of traditional Indian wedding attire. The SX worker told the reporter that this specific customer would pay her whatever she asked, as long as she'd wear the wedding clothes. He would respectfully wait outside the room till she changed and then he would make her sit on the bed. He would pull up a chair, sit in front of her, and just look at her and weep. For 2 hours straight. Then he'd leave. Without laying as much as a finger on her. Turns out, he had lost his wife to some freak accident hours after they got married and it messed with him big time. One of the saddest stories I've heard. And it makes my heart ache immensely whenever I recount it. I once attempted to get into selling feet pics years ago. This one guy messaged me and said he'd give me $200 if I was able to track down his identity in 30 minutes based off of a few clues he'd given me. He told me his state and job. And some surrounding area clues. Wasn't able to find him. Guess I'm not the next Sherlock Holmes. He was very heavily implying to me that he wanted to be humiliated to people he knew in real life and wanted me to have this power over him that I knew his real identity and could out him on his fetishes. Edit. I was unable to enter the feet pic selling community because, while my feet are very small and neat, perhaps cute to some people, apparently the angle of them isn't pleasing to the eye and everyone wants very long angle toes, which I do not have. Edit again. Had a roommate in college, 2000s, who did private adult videos by request only, basically expensive personalized video PRN. She came home pretty bummed one day and I asked what was up. She said she had been paid $500 to put on an adult diaper and comically large baby bonnet and walk otherwise naked around a local college green space. The whole video was her walking around with her fingers in her mouth acting like a confused adult baby. At the end she was told to pee in the diaper and show the camera. When she thought she was done, the director asked if she wanted to poo in the diaper for $1,500 instead of $500. saying the client asked if it was possible. She declined immediately and the director was, I guess, okay with it. She was bummed she missed out on making an extra $1,000 because she had pooped before going to work. We both laughed so hard. What a ridiculous thought. Done. If only I hadn't pooped before work, I'd be making some real money. A client pays me to teach him how to blow his nose properly, making sure to say key phrases like blow it clear. Another one set up a fantasy scenario where I receive an expensive vibrator in the mail, but when I open it, discover a tiny man that's stuck in it. He said what you don't know is that man was a factory worker that got stuck in the vibrator making it. I was obviously confused where he wanted me to go with this, but suggested I should try using the vibrator with the man attached. Nope. The client replied, I can't come unless you destroy it. I love the lack of kink shaming here. Also, not a sex worker, but ex-military. Some guys are too shy about sharing even the most personal. One of my buddies had a kink with those horse girls that actually pretend to be horses. I mean, they gallop around on all four and jump over the obstacles. The whole 9 yards. He grew up on a ranch too. Said what's wrong with combining the best of both worlds? That sentence raises more questions than he'll ever need answered. Nothing particularly exciting, to be honest. Kind of disappointing. Slightly more interesting requests included: 1. Pretending to be married and having to be quiet so we didn't wake the kids. 2. Armpit licking, surprisingly common. 3. Pretending to be a cat and meowing, crawling around and drinking out of a bowl on the floor. 4. Wearing pantyhose and being stretched and put into various yoga type poses while he sniffed me. Met more interesting folk in my day job, I think. I feel obliged to mention the human toilet though. I never met him, but some of the other girls said there was a guy who would pay girls to poo in his mouth. Apparently they would line up outside his room to do it. Not judging, but I don't think that I could ever do that. A customer had a fishing fetish. Got fisher outfits for some girls like a raincoat or some and brought a fishing rod, boots and all, and the girls had to act like they were fishing him while he was laying on the floor and moved like a fish. Craziest I heard, but whatever floats their boat, I guess. Not me, but I heard this story from a friend of a friend who worked in a BDSM club. She had this client that would come in with a few bin bags full of nettles. It's a stinging plant for anyone not familiar. Wikipedia says they're not native to a lot of places. Anyway, then they put a tarpaulin down on the ground so they could roll him up in it with the nettles like a joint. After reading through this thread, I'm nowhere near the perverted bastard I thought I was. My fetish is to have sex with a woman. One of my favorite customers at my restaurant is a SW, and she always tells me stories in exchange for a free boba. She's also the best tipper. The best story she's told me is a guy paying her $200 to just stand on his belly. Nothing else, just stand there fully clothed. Dude didn't even jerk off or anything. A guy hit me up for feet pics once. Completely out of the blue. I know this basically bog standard. But I wasn't a sex worker, and whoever this guy was ended up hitting up about half of the guys at my college. 300-400 guys. It was all in the span of a week or so, and he offered good money per pic. All told, I heard he spent upwards of $5,000 trying to accumulate a collection of my college's male feet. Edit. $5,000 in total. He offered $5 to $20 per pic, I think. I know some dudes sent them for free just for the hell of it. I was kinda drunk when I got hit up, so I'm pretty sure I sent some in. I'm curious if they made their rounds on the internet now. Edit 2. Won't give too many details, but this was in the South within the past 8 years. Also, LMAO, I've already gotten people who want to see my feet. Hell, for $5,000 I'd take a picture of my butthole once a week for a year. I love learning about people's weird kinks. The first one that pops in my mind is the guy who would pay the girls to watch them play with their belly button. Nothing extreme. Just caressing around it and maybe sticking your finger in a little bit for 20 minutes or so. He was also really nice. I think the strangest I've ever gotten was a man who had a huge fetish for Disney characters. And I'm not even talking just Disney princesses he loved like Lilo and Stitch or Pooh Bear. He regularly paid me several hundred to dress up as his favorite characters and basically verbally abuse him. It was a sweet gig while it lasted. However strange. Nothing really surprises me anymore after that one. Edit. This blew up way more than I expected. I'll try and get to everyone's questions and messages eventually. Thank you all for being so kind and open-minded. I'm a dancer in a club and I love kinky guys. Other than the doms. I won't get into that whole thing. Kinky guys tend to be pretty passive and tip well. Mostly I meet foot guys. Cuckolds. Men who wear women's undergarments. And just overall subs who are open to whatever I'm into. After 15 years in the industry, I thought I'd heard it all. Then I met a guy who said he was into bones. As in, he bought a 45-minute room and just wanted to feel my skeleton. He was touching my collarbone and hips pretty hard. It wasn't the most comfortable dance ever, but he was so grateful to be acting out his fantasy and super respectful of me and my time. One of my favorite guys ever. Update. You all have really great questions and responses. I would love to answer meaningfully as I enjoy my work and love to talk about it. Just gonna take some time. I'm guessing that skeleton guy had a hard time in biology class. I was camming and a guy wanted to start a pay-per-minute camming show. I agreed and just casually talked with him for a bit. Then to the weird part. He wanted me to lie in full view of the camera. Completely still. Like literally not move. I spent about an hour just laying completely still and making no sound. I have no idea what he got out of it. I heard that some artists ask cam girls to do some certain things so they can draw them and work on anatomy. Standard, not a SX worker, but I smoke cigars for fun and had a guy request to pay for a custom video of me trying to light a cigar with a broken lighter and get very annoyed that it won't light. Specific. Online only here. I had a man pay me $500 to sit on my feet in panties and a t-shirt and turn my back to the camera and play video games while ignoring the camera. Worth? Edit. Since this blew up, it was via cam online, so he wasn't there in person. Yes, I have below zero. I bought it day one. But unfortunately my PC has way too low specs for it. So it sits unplayed in my Steam account. Thanks for all the fun comments, guys. I did not expect this to go off like it did. You're all cool people. Not a SX worker, but my friend who has had a client that needed expensive gourmet pies thrown into his face while he was strapped to a chair. I am no SX worker. However, this seems fitting. Oh, I also had a guy out of his mind on Molly have me over for like 5 hours but had me arrive at midnight, then proceeded to dress me in every Halloween costume he had ever worn and photograph me in pirate stuff. LOTR costume and a wizard W, a large staff taller than I am. Guy WHO makes the Radio's YouTube vids. Why didn't I get on the vid? I have hella upvotes and 2 awards. I put on his wizard hat and robe. Watch this question be in an Ask Reddit text-to-speech video. I'm no SX worker. But I did know a guy who would roll a layer of tissue paper under his foreskin when he had SX. Was an awkward night when his girlfriend revealed she had to remove dried bits of tissue paper from her anus. I was on a job at a new construction house and I was talking to the detail cop. Now this house being built was in the high millions and had a police detail protecting it 24/7 paid out of the owner's pocket, with the police getting paid out. The reason is because one of the workers had a fetish for wood and got caught on camera jerking off on the custom woodwork that was being done. I've only SX worked once when I didn't have enough money for a night out. Guy paid me $250 for me to sit on his back naked for 3 hours. He didn't do anything, just lay there. No conversation whilst I watched TV. I felt like I'd ripped him off, but he was very appreciative. There's plenty of fetishes I don't indulge but understand how people get off. But I struggle to understand what he was getting out of it. To each their own. Have you considered that the man had a back pain and needed a certain amount of pressure onto a single spot on his back to cure it, and he also has the ability to weight someone just by looking at them, therefore knowing who would provide the perfect pressure? High chance that is not real, but who would know? In a special massage place. Friend of a friend of a friend told me that one of her customer comes in regularly to get his ass cheek scratched for 1 hour. That sounds heavenly. Not a sex worker, but a friend of mine is. She's not on Reddit, but gave me permission to share this story. She had a regular whose only request was that she sit crisscross applesauce and lift her shirt above her belly while using a finger to continuously draw a circle around her belly button while saying, "This is my belly button," until he came. Not a sex worker, but I dated a boudoir photographer for a while a few years back who would get some pretty interesting requests from clients. She got one once that was too weird for her to accept the insane amount of money people pay her for that service. A guy called in saying he wanted to do something like a couple's boudoir shoot. Nothing odd there. She's done those before. But he was kinda noticeably dodging any info about the person joining him in the shoot. Well, after a few minutes of him asking questions about pricing and different ideas for the shoot, she was feeling weird about the dodges, so she kinda hung the conversation on it. After pressing him about it, it turned out the other person he wanted in the shoot with him was his mother. Don't worry, though. It's not anything weird. Full stop. You. Close call. Almost got weird there for a minute. I had to slip a 45 record over the top of this guy's penis. Then sit back with a cigarette and spin the record with my foot, take a puff and say, "Hi, my name is Jeannie and I'm 15 years old." Then blow out the smoke. I said this over and over until he came. Then he tried to give me the record for a souvenir. I used to be a cam girl and I once had a guy ask me to slap American cheese on my tits. He is still my favorite. I'm not a sex worker, but the weirdest request I've had was on Reddit from a guy offering me $50 an hour to crush mealworms and insects with my feet. Oh. And the bugs will be supplied to me. Another time, a guy offered me $200 just to show up and meet him. Didn't have to talk or stay. Just collect money and leave. Which was obviously sketchy, as and I didn't go. I often pay one to sit there while I just cry against her lap. This one is really gross, so read at your own risk. I never met this guy in person. We corresponded through email only. He sent me a pet egg, one of those foot exfoliators that looks like a cheese grater, and asked me to take a 5-minute video of myself using it on my feet. He had me use it multiple times over a couple weeks. Specifically after wearing smelly shoes. At the end of the allotted time, I would send him the shavings in the mail, mixed with toenail clippings, so he could eat them while watching the video. Gag. But $300 is $300. Let's just cuddle all night. I dated a woman who was really popular on a couple of the professional cuddler sites. I always laughed that I got the cuddles without paying, while a dozen dudes a week paid her $100 to cuddle them and listen to their problems. But she was good at what she did, so I get the appeal. Not a sex worker, but after I posted to our curly hair, I got a DM from someone offering me $400 for a video of me cutting my hair start to finish. I'm a dude and had very long curly hair. I was honestly down, so I probed the bit. I asked who the intended audience was and he said it was for his Patreon, and sent me a link to a private YouTube channel with tons of videos of guys with unruly hair shaving their head. I have to imagine this was quite lucrative if his opening line was to offer $400. I didn't do it in the end. He would only give payment for either completely shaving the head or a very tight buzz cut. I was really nervous for such a drastic change, and wasn't entirely convinced this was legitimate. Still wonder today what this was about. Not me, but my friend was doing cam work, and she told me that she was asked to show her ass, which she did. And then the guy whipped out a cucumber and slathered it in butter and shoved it up his ass. She tells me this is something she can never unsee. I used to sell a friend of mine sleeping pills. She had a client who liked them being injected to his dick and tried to her before he went to sleep. Would take about 10 to 15 minutes before he crashed out. She was always paid up front and she would leave when he fell asleep. Not a sex worker, but I used to have a modeling page and I got a message through once asking me to take videos and pictures of me sitting on cakes. He tried to claim it was for charity. Excuse me sir, but your dick is not a charity. Edit. I'm glad I amused some of you with this. Also note, I did not, in fact, sit on any cakes. That is a waste of perfectly good cake. Someone asked me to watch his 7-year-old wank over me on cam while I played with myself. He offered to pay my highest rates and tip me generously. I reported and blocked his ass as quickly as I could. Edit. Holy crap, I didn't really expect any response. It's just scary because he could make more emails, but I like to think most if not all models would do the same. Edit 2. 0. I work online. I don't meet up with people. I have no idea who the guy is. I can't even see clients' emails through the site. Assuming that he even used a personal email to sign up. All I can do is block and report him to the site and hope that they deal with it correctly. That man was most definitely a sex trafficker and was looking to make content off of the kid. Many years ago, I used to drive escorts around from client to client. I was chauffeuring this one girl for the night and out of the blue, she got a call from a friend. Friend couldn't make the call so she contracted it to her. I guess they help each other out. Anyways, she's like sure I'll do it. I gotta go anyway. I drop her off. She comes out about 45 minutes later all showered. I figured they were doing it in the shower. Nope. She said buddy wanted her to take a hot dump right on his chest while he cranked it and get this, he paid her $1,000 to do that. The wet hair was because she used the shower after they had finished. This was a regular customer of the friend. She gave me quite an impressive tip and thanked me for waiting longer than usual. She would charge tricks for 30 minutes. Or 1 hour, but most were 30 minutes calls and she would be done in 20. I've never heard of someone getting off by getting shat on. Not a sex worker exactly, but I do write custom erotica commissions. I've had people request severe torture, PRN and child stuff. Obviously I won't write either. But one of the weirder ones was Muslim humiliation. A guy wanted me to write about an imam being beaten and humiliated in front of his wife. Very graphic in his choices of methods. Made me wonder how someone develops a fetish like that. Used to drive security for sex workers. John would make any of our workers to buy a bag baby carrots, drive over, and pay for them to watch him shove them up his butt. That's not the end. Then he'd ask her security, not the driver me, the actual security that went with her one person. He'd then pay for an actual beating to the stomach till the carrots popped out. He paid $1,000 for this treatment. 5-10k at a time, not including the tips he'd lay over to all of us. I'm a professional dominatrix, so I got this IA. Figging. Google it. Client wanted real concrete poured over him, even after explaining the stupidity of it. Still wanted it. Refused. Was in the newspaper after he approached a random female to do it. They later robbed him. Cake inserted up rectum. Wanted to cry and be laughed at. Ball busting is always a strange one in my opinion. Roman showers. A Roman shower is a type of architecturally designed shower stall that does not require a door or curtain. Sick bastards. Aside from the whole risk of the concrete curing on the guy, concrete causes chemical burns. I'm not entirely sure that man really understood the stupidity of it even after you explained it.